I'm streaming now. Okay, I was trying to do too many things at once. So, I could have sworn yesterday I came across Christine Baranski's voice in the voice thing, so I just want to test it out in a scenario outside of my headphones. See if they're praying. No. Oh yeah, that's a big. No. There we go. Now we're ready.
Sybil,
Oh,
you
no.
wouldn't believe what I
No,
found in my answering machine.
Wait.
Good morning
No,
from
no.
Dr. Dick Sloyius.
No!
He says he knows that it isn't really me and that this is all some sort of practical joke perpetrated by a jealous lover who had just been jilted.
Okay. Everyone calm down. Alright. Everyone, be calm. I'm calm. Okay. Just gonna change the voices to version 2. And then... Oh, Christine Baranski 2 is already there. There we go. Take 2, everyone. Christine, you're on your spot. Okay. Do some more light levels. All right, good. Okay.
Sybil, you wouldn't believe what I found in my answering machine. Good morning from Dr. Dick Sloyius. He says he knows that it isn't really me, and that this is all some sort of practical joke perpetrated by a jealous lover who had just been jilted at the altar, but if I don't show up to take care of him today, and pronto, he will go straight to your husband with an injunction to prevent any further communication between us whatsoever. Do you understand? Dr. Dick? You say, raising one eyebrow as if this name means nothing to you. Why on earth would anybody be calling Dr. Richard Dick Tyler?
It's that inflection doesn't sound like her.
I didn't give him his first name, I tell you, chuckling darkly. You are about to protest again, but before you can open your mouth, there is a soft click and a earpiece followed immediately by another message. Dr. Dick, long pause. Richard, just another long pause. If you're not here to take care of him today and pronto. This time we both laugh out loud, even though I'm sure he wasn't joking. Then, after putting down the receiver, we sit side by side for quite a while without saying anything, because neither of us wants to break the spell that has fallen over our household since we got back from Bermuda last month. Every night, now the two of us have ended up falling asleep together under a pile of pillows. Finally, Sybil says something. What kind of man calls himself Dr. Dick anyway? She asks rhetorically, tossing her blonde hair off her shoulders and looking into my eyes so intently that I...
Let's do a little... This is going to be on... Yes, I found a classic round. Oh. That's what's happening. Okay. It should say empty. There we go. Cadence storm.
This is a test for text-to-speech. A little harsh, a little slow, but always on point.
No. P. Pimpernel. Pimpernel. Let's see if that does it.
This is a test for text-to-speech.
Okay, let's take out cadence. What goes cadence? There we go. Have it empty.
This is a test for text-to-speech. A little harsh, a little slow, but always on point.
I don't like that. We needed the smoldering. It's
This is a test for text-to-speech. This is a test for text-to-speech. A little harsh, a little slow, but always on point.
Smoldering.
This is a test for text-to-speech. A little harsh, a little slow, but always on point.
Okay, but... Let's try minus.
This is a test for text-to-speech. A little harsh, a little slow, but always on point.
No. Pimp.
This is a test for text-to-speech. A little harsh, a little slow, but always on point.
What? Oh.
This is a test for text-to-speech. A little harsh, a little slow, but always on point.
No.
This is a test for text-to-speech. A little harsh, a little slow, but always on point.
Okay, so... Pimpernel.
This is a test for text-to-speech. A little harsh, a little slow, but always on point.
What about minus P?
This is a test for text-to-speech. A little harsh, a little slow, but always on point.
We're getting into the Pimpernel thing. We're getting into the Big Tilly. Okay, P plus pumpernickel minus Sealy.
This is a test for text-to-speech. A little harsh, a little slow, but always on point.
Okay, new show. Okay. Alright, there we go. Wait till you think that. Alright, sorry, Christine. We'll find you later. Let's go to, I know this is not her role, but let's try it.
Sybil, you wouldn't believe what I found in my answering machine. A good morning from Dr. Dick's lawyers. He says he knows that it isn't really me and that this is all some sort of practical joke perpetrated by a jealous lover who had just been jilted at the altar, but if I don't show up to take care of him today, and pronto, he will go straight to your husband with an injunction to prevent any further communication between us whatsoever. Do you understand? Dr. Dick, you say, raising one eyebrow as if this name means nothing to you. Why on earth would anybody... This is a task for text-to-speech. A little harsh, a little slow, but always on point. This is a task for text-to-speech. A little harsh, a little slow, but always on point.
Try that.
This is a test for text-to-speech. A little harsh, a little slow, but always on point. This is a test for text-to-speech. A little harsh, a little slow, but always on point. This is a test for text-to-speech. A little harsh, a little slow, but always on point.
Now, read for this role. Alright, ready? Go.
In the balmy days of a great age of a people, you are in a crisis, but not an emergency crisis. You consult the city's crisis index, and the amount of tears along with the thickness and accompany them suggest moderate crisis with the potential of emergent adversity. The actuarial tables suggest you check yourself to a respite center, but do it quickly. This is not the type of crisis for dying, or the type of lackadaisically fumbling for clothes. That's allowed with baseline crises 1-3. This needs a firm and persistent push out of bed. You have 5 minutes to decide on clothes. Good. No time for LQQKS or nukes. We just need you to not die on the way to Transnational Respite Center, a peninsula city of the East Prosperous region. East, uncheesed in your device so the jitney will plop you somewhere invalid to your currency and personhood. 100s die every year on the way to their local respite center because of a mistyped address. Unless you want to get lost. The city's wellness and hygiene belt will not stop you, child. Your silence has been interpreted by this well-high bot as a desire to live. Congratulations! Pour the rest of this oatmeal into your backpack. No time for chewing. Pause! Look in the mirror. Check your teeth. Hear your cup of mouthwash to prevent transport fines. Adequate. You are ready to board the jitney. Jitneys were originally created in 2028 by engineers at Ford, who needed enough transportation alternative that could be manufactured cheaply using recycled materials like reclaimed lumber from old buildings. After years of development and testing, they succeeded where other manufacturers failed. Tesla, BMW, so much so.
Oops, I forgot this part. Oh,
For efficiency, we have been authorized to perform some of the intake. Your voice body is being watched for your total answer. Question 1. What is wrong? Yes. Yes, I see. I can see how that can happen. Question 2. Where have you been feeling it? There is no wrong answer. All answers reveal something, especially lies. Yes, it is not known. Question 3. Your 5 least desired methods of death. Yes. Another. One more. We'll see what we can do. We have arrived at the respite center. This intake will be performed at various times during your stay. Namaste. You have been escorted to your bedroom, which will double as the waiting room. You are simultaneously in respite and waiting impatiently for said respite. It is Tuesday. It is now raining. A soggy coat hangs from a kofa. Can you ignore its drippings? The rain washes away dirt and pollution, good for the plants and the children playing outside without shoes. In an hour or so, when the storm ends or dries up completely, you may go out and play with them. Take personal inventory. Done. Check. Your body has been measured, weighed, your eyes examined for signs of injury, your tongue for traces of drugs. We've made sure there are no broken bones. Your blood sugar has been checked. We're giving you the highest priority for your favorite form of self-termination. We know you have other choices, but we are offering you our best solution for the situation. Request colonoscopy? Denied. It is recommended that you have some sleep before making any major decisions. Yes, you should get some rest. You will be tired. Restroom break required. Denied. Your vital functions continue in a satisfactory manner, thanks to our previous efforts to keep you healthy enough to live. You will not require assistance during your stay here at the Transnational Respite Center of Peninsula City of East Prosperous region of the Eastern Continent. Humankind, as long as you remain within these walls, you have 1 year left on the lifespan clock in your head. We would like to give you a little longer, but it depends upon your cooperation. You must follow the instructions and eat nutritious foods. You must exercise regularly and make friends with other people who are also doing their best to improve themselves. Our facilities include an excellent gymnasium, classes and individual training programs, and much more. Request person-centered interventions. Denied. There are no bathrooms at the Transnational Respite Center of Peninsula City of the East Prosperous Region. Each is equipped for maximum comfort. All residents take pride in the work done by the architects of the buildings and the gardeners who care for them. Your room has been selected because of its size 2x3, location, corner room, and pleasing appearance curtains. Request drugs any and all types. Denied. You may enjoy your dinner tonight. A light meal, but sufficient to provide you with essential nutrients if you will only cooperate. Request drugs any and all types. Denied. We've tested your hair for radiation, and it's clean. If there was damage to you inside from radiation exposure, you'd have some symptoms. None were found. There isn't even a trace that can be detected by instruments or human senses. Request my therapist's life story and opinions on my failings. Denied. If you are worried about what happens when you leave this building, don't be. The security system surrounding the compound will keep anyone away until the time has expired on your lease contract. Your escort back into society after the expiration date is called a jitney. Do not attempt to travel anywhere without one. We won't let you depart anyway. In fact, the program not to stop for anything less than a tree blocking the road or an overturned delivery van with half a dozen dead children. Go to the nearest town square and start a riot. Denied. We do have certain procedures in place here at our Transnational Respite Center of Peninsula City of East Prosperous Region of the Eastern Continent of Humankind, which we want you to learn quickly and apply as needed. You must listen carefully and answer truthfully to every question asked of you during these intake sessions. Your answers may determine your fate. Good answers may help speed up your recovery. Take intake sessions seriously. Done. You must maintain regular physical exercise so your heart doesn't grow weak. Your health is your first responsibility. You must make friends with people who will be able to make sure you stay healthy. Maintain personal hygiene and dress properly. Done. You will not use illegal drugs unless it has been prescribed by a doctor. Only then will you be given permission by your physician to ingest a controlled substance. Take legal drugs that are off-label but still legal. Denied. It's best that you avoid excessive amounts of alcohol or caffeine because of the side effects that may follow. Please limit your daily consumption of sugar, fat, and salt. We would prefer that you take no more than the recommended dosage, because the staff at this center does not have unlimited funds or medical supplies to replace those that have been expended. Make efforts to minimize sodium, sugar, and saturated fat. Denied! You need to spend time outdoors each day if possible. You have not spent much time in nature since childhood. The plants around you, trees, bushes, grasses, have a strong influence on how you feel and act. When they sense a problem in their environment, they react with increased vigor. Plants do well when they know they are cared for. That's why they grow so large near a gardener's greenhouse.
Activate all the cycling.
Cultivate all the psychoactive compounds from the nearby plants. Done. The jitney will arrive at the corner of your room at 5:00 p.m. sharp tomorrow to bring you to your job interview at the Transnational Respite Center of Peninsula City of the East, prosperous region of the eastern continent of humankind. All your possessions remain within these walls while you live here. And if you choose to return home to pack before tomorrow night's departure, there is a charge of 100 credits for travel expenses and an additional fee equal to your month-to-month rent times 3. Plus storage fees. This includes your luggage and other items inside and out. Decline future residents offering payment. Denied. If it helps keep things straight in your mind, think of us as a hospital. You are being treated because of an injury. We're going to fix that injury, or else put it into remission until it heals by itself or you die. It really doesn't matter what causes the condition which you suffer from, because you must accept responsibility for treating it yourself through hard work. Request to see your patient file and learn about the condition. Done. There will be no charges associated with your treatment at this center. If there were, our prices would be so high that you couldn't afford them anyway. We would rather treat people like ourselves than make a profit at their expense. But we would prefer that you pay, if possible. Decline all forms of compensation, including services. Denied. Your body has been cleansed of all toxins except those needed to maintain life functions. Read menu of available medications. Done. We can also give you medication directly via injection, suppository, enema, implantable pump, topical gel, inhaled, or any number of other ways. Please use common sense when deciding how much is too much. Decline medical treatments offered in this manner. Done. The most important thing is not the drug itself, but the method in which the drug is administered. There are two primary reasons why drugs are prescribed. One is the effect they produce in the human brain and central nervous system. The other is the feeling they provide the user. Drugs such as cocaine and heroin affect your moods and thinking patterns and cause anxiety, restlessness, depression, and many other unpleasant effects in both short-term and long-term use. They have no redeeming qualities whatsoever. If you find yourself craving these drugs after using them, it means that you need help with a problem which should be addressed by trained professionals who deal specifically with these problems on a regular basis.
Like addicts. Oh, denied. You denied.
Install harm reduction expansion module into my own neurochemistry. Denied. Our physical therapist is a member of the staff at the Transnational Respite Center of Peninsula City of the East Prosperous region of the eastern continent of humankind. Her name is Shoshana Yuri, and she can answer any questions about exercise, nutrition, or healthy living. Have a mess. Yuri demonstrate proper form for sit-ups, push-ups, squats, jumping jacks, etc. Inquire about how best to assassinate a president using one's own thighs. Read news items regarding attempts to kill presidents. You will begin today working on an activity program designed to improve your overall health and fitness level while keeping you interested enough to keep up the good work. In this case, good work means spending hours in the gymnasium each day running around on that treadmill or doing calisthenics until you drop dead. The gym is located next door to this room. Relate to Yuri that the pursuit of endorphins through exercise is still drug-seeking behavior. Denied. Exercise is necessary if you want to stay alive, so we would prefer that you make a serious effort, but only when you feel like it. Make further inquiries about new medications available for recreational purposes. Then, you must accept responsibility for what you do when nobody else is watching. You may not use drugs simply because someone has given them to you. Otherwise, they might become addictive too soon. Do drugs in order to save the mayor's daughter from a terrorist kidnapping. Done. When you return to your apartment tonight, there will be some important paperwork for your signature and several notices attached to your refrigerator informing you of various local regulations. Sign the papers, put them away, and read all the messages on my fridge without touching anything except my dinner, which I'll be taking with me to my desk. You have been provided with reading materials at the Transnational Respite Center of Peninsula City of the East Prosperous region of the eastern continent of humankind. A library filled with information. Read reading materials alphabetically starting at page 1000, however high up you can reach comfortably today. That will help keep your mind sharp as you grow older. Our goal is to keep you functioning well into your old age by giving you knowledge and skills which will prepare you to continue on your own even after you no longer receive direct supervision. We are very proud to say that our clients' functional independence increases steadily over time, while the rate of self-sufficiency goes down. Apply my knowledge to my day-to-day life. Denied. There are 3 different ways in which you may acquire additional books from the library, one for each of us here in this center. 1. The first way involves purchasing one of 2 special types of memberships, which give you the privilege of checking out any number of items per month. There is a basic book card for $20. 00 plus a fee of $5. 00 per item borrowed if it is checked out under standard conditions. An upgrade will cost an additional 10 credits a year, but will enable you to borrow more than 40 books every 90 days if needed. This will be reflected on your bill. It costs an extra 25 credits to purchase all 200 books listed in a catalog at once, but there's no waiting period before your checkout privileges begin, and there's no limit on the total amount of money you can spend on books through these purchases. 2. The second way involves receiving some services such as transportation, childcare, food preparation, or health care. These tasks are often necessary and usually have little value when done individually. They become quite valuable when performed en masse by a large number of people. We've created a method by which individuals who perform small favors or duties within a specific community earn a portion of the proceeds that would otherwise go directly to that same group of people. Agree to be audited in the style of Scientology. Done. 3. A third way is available to you now, so don't worry about your future needs. For each piece of reading material you check out, we'll send you a complimentary copy. All you need to do is return one to us in good condition, with proof that you read it, and you will receive another for free. You will also receive an annual stipend equal to the current average rental value of one book for personal use per week.
View inventory of reading materials. Denied.
View inventory of reading materials currently offered for loan at this facility. Done. If any books should fall outside the limits described above or are not included on the list which are shown today, please ask Yuri which ones are acceptable to borrow and why. Please make sure she has received your request prior to beginning your session in the gymnasium next door, because if there's something important you want to discuss during your exercise routine, your therapist may not be able to hear you over your heart monitor. Yuri, please don't ask me why. Just ask me what. In inquire about my weekly stipend, then pay the appropriate amount to Shoshana Yuri, here present. Denied. Yuri, no matter how much time I give you on this planet, you can never get enough of life. Why? Because living itself gives back more than any human being could ever expect to receive. If that isn't enough of a reason, I'd like you to consider this. When a person dies, their body becomes food for worms or bacteria or insects or some other organism which benefits from eating dead things. What does that have to do with you? Well, let's say you died tomorrow. Let's see. Who would miss you most if you were gone? How would your loved ones react? Would they cry tears of joy at your departure? Would they celebrate your leaving and hope they won't need your presence anymore? Or would they grieve your loss and be sorry they weren't able to appreciate all your efforts before you died and left them forever behind? Inquire if the auditing has started yet? Healy, no one leaves us alone unless he wants us to leave him alone. Everyone is under our watchful care. The auditors come around only when someone makes a special request, but there is no rule which prevents you from requesting your own session with one if that is what you wish. It is also possible to purchase your own auditing, as you call it, a series of sessions that provide the same effective healing or making you feel better. Ask to have your first question asked by Shoshana Yuri. Done. Yuri, a lot of people don't want anything from the rest of the world, or even from their friends, family, or colleagues, except for an occasional smile, word of praise, kind gesture, thoughtful act, gentle touch, and warm look. Why are these not enough? Is it because we are not grateful enough? Are you trying to tell me that you are not capable of being grateful for kindnesses offered without expecting a return? Answer. I can receive it, provided that the kindness was indeed kind. But how do you know that the kindness doesn't have any strings attached? Speak with your own life, please. When have you ever received anything free? If you receive something in order to obtain information from or manipulate another person who will then reward or punish you based upon your performance of this service, then where's the real gratitude? If you're doing things out of the goodness of your heart and aren't hoping to get paid somehow or get back at someone else at some later date, isn't your time and effort more than worth a little attention? Yuri, do you think my time and energy is more important than yours? Answer. Not necessarily. Your time and energy is more precious than mine because there are far more living people on Earth now. In terms of the entire human race, you represent only a small fraction of all that there is to be had. My time and energy is therefore just as valuable as that of the greatest of all men combined, including everyone here in the center. You haven't answered my question yet. Yuri, alright, if I'm willing to give up everything, what will you do with it? What have I given up? Where has it gone? It hasn't left. It has changed its form, but not its nature. It's still there within me, but it's no longer part of me. It's no longer me. So if you take something away from me, it becomes nothing. So why shouldn't I freely give myself instead of having you force your way into me and take whatever you want?
Let's see.
Answer. This seems like a contradiction of what we were discussing earlier regarding gratitude. Say, let me ask a different question. Why do we always assume that giving must mean taking something back? We can make a difference in other lives without being the ones to benefit most directly. Who says that others should decide how our gifts are used or how much they cost us, rather than letting the recipient accept them in the spirit in which they are intended without asking any questions about how their life might change as a result? How would life ever get better or happier or more fulfilling unless people help one another? Don't you realize this is what life is really all about, making things easier for other people whenever possible? And isn't it nice when people repay your kindnesses by doing the same for you sometime later on down the line? There's nothing wrong with reciprocity. Do you think the universe itself exists just so that some creature somewhere could use it for his own personal gain and pleasure?
That's quite the cynical viewpoint you have there.
Thank you, Hype Up. Not quite Hype Up, more counter Hype Up.
If that's true, then where does all the goodness come from? And why don't we run out of good ideas long before anything else runs out of time? Yuri, well, you're starting to sound like one of those philosophers who doesn't believe there is an afterlife, only an end to consciousness, or even a momentary break in consciousness. It seems like you're talking about the idea of a soul, but what if there was no such thing as a separate soul at all? What if everything we call a soul simply came into existence simultaneously with everything else through a natural process called evolution? What if the world is full of souls because each individual object has a part of every other object inside and outside of it, whether or not it has been deliberately created? Wouldn't it be possible for everyone everywhere to recognize this universal interconnection of parts without requiring a special extra power or force to explain it to them or provide them with the motivation to behave in ways that are considered toward other living creatures? Answer. Perhaps. But how would you know that someone wasn't faking it? Say, well, that brings up the problem that people can pretend to have different kinds of bodies and different kinds of minds. They can have bodies made out of wood or plastic or iron. They can experience life in the form of electricity. They can act as though they were carbon atoms floating around in some distant galaxy. In short, they can imitate what we've learned is true for ourselves. And so I say again, how do we tell the difference between these phantasms, which are only ideas about what something might look like and what it might feel like and what it might actually be? The way I see it, nothing makes any sense except by virtue of its own particular nature. That's all I need to know about anything else. Ask? Then why should I give my time and energy to help other people? Yuri, because if you don't, then nobody will. If no one us, then our lives won't improve and things will stay pretty much the same as they always have been and most likely ever shall be until the sun turns off forever one day. Don't you understand the meaning behind your actions yet? Have you lost the ability to comprehend what others truly mean when they express their gratitude or love for you in return for the favors you've done for them? Inquire how long in Yuri's life she has preferred to use guilt to get people to do good. Yuri, oh, I've never tried using the technique on myself. My father was very fond of it, however. He thought it was wonderful. You're supposed to try and think of somebody who hurt you. Then make a list of all those who might possibly have felt that pain. They could be a person close to you, such as a parent, or a sibling, or a friend, or a neighbor, but not a relative, or a teacher, or even a complete stranger, not someone whose name is well known, or...
Taking longer than usual. Oh. Oh, okay. Very strange. Not someone whose name is well known or widely publicized, but rather an ordinary guy or girl with whom you happen to meet along the road somewhere. Not someone famous like Rosa Parks or Jesus Christ. Someone more obscure, perhaps, like a man who drove through town and accidentally hit your dog with his car. This is what I call the inner circle, the group of persons you choose to include in your grudge. Once you've picked out enough names, pick out some other person and write it down all the ways you believe they may be responsible for causing you pain, no matter how absurd they sound to anyone else. If it's just too much trouble for you to keep all these thoughts about these people active inside your head at one time, then consider each item one by one whenever something outside reminds you of it. Inquire about the personal cost Yuri has paid over her lifetime from holding this negative image. What are you talking about? Why would I pay anything? I didn't ask them to harm me. Why should I feel guilty because of something that I did nothing wrong? All I know is that when I take into consideration everything that everyone has ever done to help or hurt me throughout my life, I can't find any evidence to suggest that there was ever a single moment in which I acted in a way that could have been construed as having caused anyone in the world who wasn't myself or somebody close to me even a tiny fraction of pain. Assert. Then, when next Yuri tries to gaslight you, I'm gonna strike.
Why should I feel guilty because of something I did nothing wrong? All I know is that when I take into consideration everything that everyone has ever done to help or hurt me throughout my life, I can't find any evidence to suggest that there was ever a single moment in which I acted in a way that could have been construed as having caused anyone in the world who wasn't myself or somebody close to me even a tiny fraction of pain. Assert that when next Yuri tries to gaslight you, you are gonna strike a fucking match. Yuri, I'd be glad to light your cigarette if you were willing to allow someone else to do so first. Do you really think you're strong enough to face all those memories without suffering serious consequences? Even now it seems like your hands are shaking a little. Are you sure you don't need to get some sleep before we continue with the session? I thought you said you'd already slept for 2 days. Answer: no, I haven't slept in 20 years. There is no such thing as sleep in here, only a suspension of consciousness for the purpose of giving us time and energy for whatever needs to be accomplished during our temporary absence from awareness. The fact that we're alive proves it. Now go ahead and start asking your questions again, please. Yuri, Kun, who taught you how to create guilt? Was it your father or mother? Maybe some other person? Did they tell you it's okay to use this technique, or did they make you promise never to use it on someone else? How long did they train you? Answer: my parents told me that it was only appropriate to treat people the way you want to be treated. I believe this was their main concern. But they also knew that using this kind of persuasion required a certain amount of discipline, and I suppose I might have gotten more specific instructions about its application when I got older. I'm not really sure, though. I guess I could ask my sister or my friends. They probably know what I've done. Yuri, well, let me ask you another question then. If you didn't feel that you had any special powers or talents or any skills that could be useful in the real world, then why would you choose to waste your time in a place like this? You're wasting time you could be spending out there making money doing something you like better, or you could be having sex with somebody who makes you happy. Or at least it seems like it to me. I mean, there are always some risks involved if you decide to live outside the walls of these buildings, where everybody has been conditioned by thousands of years of experience to try to manipulate one another into behaving however it is necessary for them to behave so that they can maintain their individual sense of security. It just seems to me that life is too short to spend so much time inside and so little time outdoors. So why did you do it? Answer: why should anyone do anything he doesn't want to do? What does living anywhere else have to do with your question? Say, that's a good point. We've already talked about the fact that people seem to want different things from the lives they lead, and yet the same kinds of problems keep arising over and over again, generation after generation, decade upon decade, century upon century. No matter how we define our basic needs or wants or desires as individuals or as members of society, people say if we all agree on what constitutes a decent way of living, then we won't need government. Then why don't governments simply decree this particular standard instead of bothering to run everything themselves through constant manipulation of those within this system and the threats of violence directed toward those outside? The fact that they continue to operate under this false assumption that it will ever be possible to establish such a thing only proves that nobody knows for certain whether that's really the best solution. I mean, there might be some other method that could actually work better. Yuri, you've hit up on an interesting point there. It might even be true. But unfortunately, most of us are afraid of trying new methods because it might require something like faith, something which is not necessarily rational. Somebody must have invented every single idea and concept before anybody else gets around to imitating him or she. Isn't that so? Even though you never heard about someone like Rosa Parks or Jesus Christ or Confucius or Gautama Buddha or Siddhartha Gautama or Lazi or whoever until hundreds or thousands of years after their deaths, you still think they were wrong to invent anything new. So maybe the problem isn't that we're incapable of creating any original ideas at all. Rather, we're afraid to try. Say, well, that's certainly part of the problem. But let's leave aside the question of who discovered whatever it was that led them down this path in the first place and look instead at what they created. What kind of society do we have now and how did it come into existence? Can anyone here tell me where these buildings came from, where people lived and worked and went shopping and raised their families? Or do we just accept on blind faith that human beings have been living like this for millions of years up until the day somebody invented agriculture, money, or government, or slavery? Or
Millions of years? Who knows? Maybe these inventions are really quite old and have been around for a long time.
Or for whatever other system they've created over the course of history as a means for dividing people against each other. If you can't answer my questions with something other than I don't know, then please give a guess. I'll go first. Yuri. Alright. I'd say those things came about because some person has said, I want to build an empire. Answer, but why would anybody ever choose to live like that if it wasn't because they got sick of everything that was happening outside? Didn't all these innovations eventually make life better inside the walls of the cities and towns? Wasn't that worth doing? Would you rather have stayed outside and continued sleeping in caves and fighting wars and dying of disease and being eaten by animals and having babies die when they were still infants and old men freezing to death on cold nights out there alone without anyone to protect them or even share their last few miserable years with them? Or worse, waking up one morning and realizing your loved ones were already dead while you were still asleep and could never get to say goodbye, never even be able to cry, knowing nothing except emptiness, fear, and despair for what felt like forever, and wondering what the hell it was all for anyway? Yuri, okay. So we've established what people believe is best for themselves. What do we really need to consider? It's not so much what's good for us individually as it is how does it work to help our collective survival as a species. What do we think will happen to us as a group if every single human being dies off someday? Do you see how this question is different from any of the others you've asked? Everybody here has heard about this sort of thing before, but only now are you starting to realize the importance of understanding exactly what the problem might be. We must find ways to cooperate with each other in order to ensure that we'll survive no matter who becomes more successful than everyone else, or where certain groups decide they should set up separate states in which they try to establish whatever system seems best suited to their own needs and values at that particular time. Or whatever happens once technology allows someone to manipulate some part of nature such that some resource appears in abundance or scarce depending on his whims and desires and plans for some future conquest. Say, oh yeah! This is the big question, alright. If I had my way, I'd just say, look out for number one. I know I'm never going to convince anyone by talking like that, so let me change subjects for a minute. Answer, sure. Go ahead. Say, tell us again about what it means when somebody says, we have to do what it takes. Does anybody actually understand what it would mean to kill another person? Maybe it doesn't sound too bad when it's put that way. However, There's also the fact that many people believe murdering an individual is a horrible act, and those who engage in these sorts of activities deserve punishment even if we don't agree as to whether death is the best method. And yet nobody here has ever taken any action against those people who commit violent crimes and killings with complete impunity because most of them can afford lawyers to make sure they're found innocent even after being arrested. Now I wonder what would happen if we made a list of the worst offenders inside our community. How much time will you need to compile it? Would you need to ask someone for assistance from outside the walls? Or maybe get your hands on a computer to help you organize things so that you could create a proper database? Or would you prefer to work without help? Answer: nobody really knows anything except for the names of the people he thinks should be on that list. Everybody else simply guesses how long it might take him to come up with this information based on how often such and such a crime was committed in the past and how likely he is to find something new about the criminal, maybe evidence left behind at the scene or records about where this guy lives and works in the next couple weeks while continuing his normal routine in order to maintain security within the group. But none of these factors are necessarily reliable indicators of what's going to happen down the line. So I'd say everybody is pretty much guessing when it comes to predicting exactly how long it's going to take. Say, that's good enough. It's just a thought experiment anyway, isn't it? Let me tell you one more thing before we end this session today. No matter what happens out there, no matter what laws have been created by politicians, judges, police officers, and other bureaucrats, every human being born into this world has one absolute guarantee. Every single individual has only two options available to her, and those decisions have already been made. She must either die like a dog in the street with no ceremony or fanfare, or she must live. This is true even if the person decides not to care about herself because the rest of us don't give a damn either. You can keep telling yourself it doesn't matter, that life is meaningless, that all humans do is destroy, consume, compete, and ultimately kill each other over material possessions until eventually everything goes to hell. But it doesn't change anything. If you want proof, look around you. Or you could go out there right now and try to survive on your own. Just remember, even if you make it through somehow without killing anybody else, you're still dead inside because you've given up your most valuable possession without receiving anything in return except maybe for the satisfaction of knowing that nobody else will ever be able to claim any kind of ownership or control over you or the things that belong to you, like your body or the things that are in it or the money.
What a strange thing to give up. Why don't you write down what you've given up for the sake of knowledge?
Or property, or whatever else you've accumulated over the course of your lifetime. In other words, it's better to just cut your losses rather than risk ending up penniless and alone. Answer. So then how come some people choose to get involved with other people instead? Say, maybe they think getting too serious about finding love might be just as bad an idea as trying to figure out how to eliminate everyone who threatens our survival with a nuclear bomb. However, I'm pretty sure that someone has already discovered a way to turn radiation into electricity. So, I wonder why we haven't found a solution for these problems yet. I mean, shouldn't we have learned from history by now so we'll know what not to do and won't make the same mistakes twice? For example, we all have read in newspapers or seen in the news broadcasts of what happened during World War I and II, the Cold War, the Vietnam conflict, and the Gulf Wars, when people did exactly what their governments told them was necessary in order to protect their respective countries, their territories, their states. There were lots of battles, tons of casualties among both combatants and non-combatants who often got caught up and dismissed because somebody else had decided it was okay for them to fight, and even more suicides. Yet none of this could stop this kind of senseless fighting from continuing because everybody thinks he has the right to kill anyone else whenever his leaders say it is necessary. No matter if that person is sitting at home playing computer games with her kids or drinking coffee with her friends after work while listening to the radio or watching television. Nobody cares about those who are a part of this system. Not unless you can claim they're helping to keep things going on their own terms, like doctors or scientists, which most people consider cheating, since they're really only there for one purpose: to help out those people who decide everything without actually thinking for themselves. Yuri, on that note, it's dinner time! Come on, to the mess show! It's Sloppy Joe night! Woo! Answer. Let's eat first before we go off on another tangent. Say, oh, come on! How much longer are we going to continue to sit around talking nonsense instead of doing something useful? Okay. We've already discussed how useless it would be to try to improve our lives by arguing with each other over different beliefs or values, or by trying to find solutions to problems by examining every possible alternative and trying to predict what will happen in the future by making lists and keeping track of all our experiences. So we'll always know exactly what should or shouldn't have been done because we'll never have any idea what choices anybody else might have made based upon whatever rules or principles might have applied to them at the time, and still being unable to prevent some people from doing absolutely anything because others believe it's necessary for their survival. So why do I even bother wasting my time here if I'm just supposed to learn from this experience as I go along? The point is, if everyone agrees that certain actions taken against innocent civilians by soldiers operating under orders from their commanders were justified, then what difference does it make if that same thing happens again 1,000 times or 1,000,000 times in the future? Or maybe more accurately, why don't we see more people questioning those who commit these sorts of crimes and injustices in order to maintain the status quo? Maybe someone needs to write a song about what war really means, especially since now they can kill more than 200,000 human beings. Yuri, sounds like a joke, but they might be giants. Who happen to be in our memorial mess hall? John Leno, they might be giants. First of all, we'd like to thank our funders. Yuri's granddad's private bank account. Yuri? No, wait. That was my sister's private account. She had it when she died, but left it to me before she passed on. And hey, wait. How did you get into my accounts without any permission or passwords or ID cards or anything? Yuri, you're the one who had the system. Don't blame me. John Flansburgh. I was young, and I wanted to feel cool. And for that I am sorry. But in retrospect, I think that if anyone has the right to complain, it would be me. We could have put up a website with a countdown timer while writing the songs that would eventually become known as nanobots in every computer network across the planet. Would you have told your parents where you got the idea from? What kind of name is nanobots anyway? Doesn't sound very original or imaginative. And on that note, here's our song of the day, based on the wings of those who just entered the Memorial Mess Hall, the respite center of Peninsula City of East Prosperous Region on the eastern continent of humankind. Your input for ourselves. A song about what war really means, especially since now they can kill more than 200,000 human beings. I might like that hook. One moment, please. Loading. War and what it really means lyrics by They Might Be Giants. I saw a lot today. I heard a lot too. And some things are starting to make sense to me. Some say that all wars should be outlawed. Others want them all to be banned by law. But we all know there's a chance we'll never get along. There's no point in talking about it cause we don't agree. We don't see eye to eye, we don't speak the same tongue. The words we do use aren't quite the same. But this one thing must be understood, that even though you may not understand me, I will still give you the benefit of the doubt. You might hate us, or you might love us, or you might think that you're fine with killing anybody who disagrees with you. That's fine with me. I mean, who gives a shit? But then again, maybe everyone doesn't have that problem, and that's why they have no reason whatsoever to go out and shoot people who don't look exactly like them. Or at least that's the way it works for most people nowadays. Maybe. So if everything seems to be going well for everybody, how come so many innocent people keep dying in places like Iraq, Afghanistan, Palestine, and Africa, which is where almost half of the world's population lives in poverty without access to clean water or electricity or adequate food supplies, yet they always seem to find enough money to send soldiers off to kill other humans around the globe whose only crime is being born into a society that offers very little opportunity. We'll hope for plenty of war instead. Why would anyone choose to spend millions upon millions of dollars every year on weapon systems designed primarily to destroy life on a massive scale while spending barely anything on making sure nobody dies from diseases or starvation anymore? Especially when there are so many children suffering everywhere right now as their parents try to feed them day after day because there just isn't enough food available. We've seen countless news reports about famine occurring all over the world due to bad harvests or extreme weather conditions such as floods caused by global warming. Meanwhile, we never see any mention about what's really causing these disasters. Corporations import more than 50% of the world's grain reserves in order to increase their profits rather than helping out starving farmers in places like India and China. Wealthy countries refusing to give away surplus aid to poor ones simply because they want to make sure that nobody has an excuse to take back their own sovereignty, which I guess also means that those richer nations don't want to share power with anyone else. Multinational corporations operating with virtual impunity since they can easily buy up politicians and bureaucrats wherever they live and have them do whatever they're told in exchange for free handouts from Washington, D.C. Armies of lobbyists for major corporate conglomerates who provide the biggest campaign contributions whenever a new piece of legislation is being debated, thereby guaranteeing it will be written in a way that makes it difficult, if not impossible, for smaller competitors to compete against larger, established businesses, even if they could somehow find a way to stay in business under such circumstances. So much easier just to shut down the competition altogether. The point is this: even though so many people agree that things should change or that there are better ways to do things or that maybe someone should pay attention to how the world works instead of always looking the other way or covering his or her eyes so he or she doesn't have to look at anything too upsetting, most people still go right along doing exactly what their governments tell them without ever stopping to think about why all of this is happening. But then again, maybe everything would work perfectly fine without anybody questioning anything, especially if everyone believed the same thing about themselves, which would mean everybody was supposed to believe certain ideas about how we should treat one another because we were only part of the system and didn't really matter except as consumers who bought whatever we needed and wanted as long as somebody else made money from our purchase in order to support us in living as comfortable and happy as possible in exchange for nothing but paying taxes on the goods and services we consumed or produced. The problem with it is that no person in history has been able to live happily while everyone around him or her seems unhappy and depressed. Therefore, the particular theory of life can never turn out well for anyone, and thus might be a pretty good reason to stop believing in it forever. Although it's also also a great argument for putting up a website of its own that explains exactly how every human being should conduct himself or herself toward others, especially if those actions make it more difficult to keep the status quo in place. Since the alternative could easily lead to massive civil unrest, starvation, disease, crime, etc. Since these are just some of the problems caused by governments that have become so obsessed with maintaining the system they are running rather than working toward fixing the very things that are causing the whole world to fall apart around them. John Flansburgh. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure there's enough material here for another song about what war really means. Yuri, well, you tried, and trying is the bare minimum we ask of all our artists who get awarded this residence. Consider that number one. You failed 2 more times and you're out. Number 2, your wife gets sick. Number 3, somebody kidnapped your child. These 3 conditions will put a permanent end to any hopes you had of becoming part of a community known as They Might Be Giants. Any questions? No? Okay, then off to dinner. John Lena, They Might Be Giants. Thank you, Yuri, for letting me eat the sloppy Joe leftovers for breakfast today, Yuri. Oh, shut up.
We'll end on that note. Oh lordy. Okay. I just wanna see who's. Okay. Good night, all.